Hi, this is Phyllis Rockower. I run the Real Estate Investors Club of Los Angeles, and I have been an active investor for over 20 years. This is not my first downturn. I have been through this before, although this is the worst, and I did call it. I knew that things were going to go bad. I sold all my properties in 2005, and I told everybody in my club, all my members, they should do the same. Some did, some didn't. Too bad, because things have gone down steadily. In fact, as it is now, we just got the latest California information that average price of property in California went down from $311 to $285. It's been going down on average of 5% a month. That's pretty scary. However, I am pretty optimistic that there's a lot of money to be made even in bad times. So a couple of people have said to me, well, how did this happen? How could it, what is the reason? Who's to blame? There's a lot of blame to go around. Well, and I have identified 9 elements that I think contributed to the downturn. First was greedy Wall Street brokers. They created this ridiculous amount of unfathomable, what I call alphabet soup entities and all kinds of things that you know, wasn't even just a mortgage. It was a mortgage-backed security. It was this. Then they took them and they packaged them and repackaged them and stripped them and sold them to unsuspecting pension funds, foreign governments, and nobody knew what they were doing, and the people who bought them certainly didn't know, and no one stopped to think about, you know, what is this thing really worth? And that's one of the problems today, that no one can seem to even determine what it's worth. How, even though the government created this TARP, which is supposed to buy mortgage-backed security, the question is, how much are you paying for it? The second contributed to this debacle is Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan. He naively thought that Wall Street and the other markets didn't need any federal intervention and free markets would regulate themselves. What a dunce. I only had a few economics courses in college, and I knew that that was way beyond belief. The third contributed to the mess is Moody's and Standard & Poor. These are rating agencies. They're supposed to analyze risk on securities and bonds and make sure that what happened did not happen. I have no idea some of this junk got rated as AAA. No one did. I was wondering years ago, what's going to happen when the people who bought these mortgages realized that it wasn't the paper that it was printed on, and it wasn't just the mortgage. They stripped them and they created all kinds of funky stuff, and so on. No one knows what they were getting, but they were able to label it as AAA rated, and so therefore but it was not. It was totally risky stuff. Then of course there are the greedy homeowners. They didn't call them liar loans for nothing. People routinely made false statements on their applications to get more home they could ever afford, and they used their houses like their own personal ATM machines and borrowed over and over again as the values went up. After all, this is a new world. Real estate can never go down again, right? You know, the old rules don't apply. I've heard this so many times, and history always repeats itself. Then there's the crooked appraisers. They knew that they were overvaluing the homes when they rubber stamped the values to be the same amount as the loan. I had a student who was working for one of the major banks as a lender, and he told me that the appraiser they used routinely called him and said, what should I appraise the house for? And any appraisers that didn't play ball weren't called back. So some appraisers did not like this, and they quit doing it because they just in good conscience couldn't do it, and some of them loved the money and they just did it anyway. Then there's always Bill Clinton. Now, during the Depression, there was an act passed called the Glass-Steagall Act, which basically said that banks and brokerage houses couldn't get into each other's businesses. Well, Clinton repealed that and set the stage for the growth in these exotic mortgages and then the repackaging and packaging in exotic and unfathomable financial instruments. That's why things got out of control. One side fed the other, up and up, with no regulation in place to stop it. Funky financial instruments started under his watch. Of course, the Bush administration did nothing to stop it. Then there's the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, whose job it is to regulate. But they stood by and did nothing. In fact, they allowed banks to ignore state predatory lending laws. In addition, they allowed the proliferation of Ponzi schemes. Mr. Bernard Madoff, which cheated people out of billions of dollars. And how could that happen? Where was the SEC? Then, of course, there's the crooked mortgage brokers who knew that they were falsifying loan documents and they didn't care about anything except the commission. Some of the people who were applying for the loans really didn't understand what they were getting themselves into. Some of them didn't speak English too well, and they routinely steered these people into higher rates, even though they knew they could qualify for lower rates because they get a better percentage, more of a kickback. Then last but not least is the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Act. This was passed a number of years ago to help low-income folks get loans and to eliminate what they called redlining. And this was the beginning of lowered lending standards. The banks were pressured to make a certain amount of loans no matter what. All of these things created a ridiculous situation that we find ourselves in. Now the trillion-dollar question is, how do we get out of it? Well, I believe that housing started the mess, which led to the downturn in the stock market and the economy, and I think that housing is going to have to be cured. The situation has to improve drastically before anything else is going to happen. The confidence level now is so low that people will not buy anything. So if they don't buy anything, companies don't make any money, jobs go out the window, people aren't going to get mortgages, the stock market is not going to improve without improved employment statistics and improve earnings from corporations. So what's going to change this? The only thing that's really going to make this go up quickly and get us out of this mess is if the Obama government does something really drastic and puts interest rates down to like about 4% and offers tax benefits for people who buy loans, and then maybe only for the year, and do some of the things that they did in Mississippi when they offered tax credits for investors who invested. And how about stopping the silliness about investors only buying 4 properties, can only have 4 loans in their name. Investors got us out of this mess in the last downturn, and we certainly can help do it now because a lot of the properties are in bad condition, and only an investor is going to buy these because they cannot qualify for regular loans. Investors come in and buy cash. So there you have it. We have an interesting 2009, and the outcome will be really dependent on if the Obama administration does aggressive things, and if the Senate, which never gets their act together and only interested in their own little, private little pet projects, if people can really get together and put away the politics and really think about what's best for the country, then we can get out of it sooner. I'm still reminded of JFK's quotation, who said, "Ask not what the country can do for you, rather what you can do for the country." And this is where we are. So hopefully things will happen in a good way and we will be out of this mess soon. And then we can make lots of money. Thanks. Bye.